Cavan?
He's trying to get on the call, I think.
Okay. Mr. Lamont? Lamont? Okay, Mr. Lutz is here. Legislative is vacant. Mr. Labrie?
Mr. Libertarian is a proxy.
Oh. I'm here for a reason.
Why did I think for Greg? Oh, so, your name, please?
Andy Bukovich.
Okay, that's what I didn't have. Let me, 1 second here. Can you spell your last name for me?
Buchk. O. B is in Victor. ICH.
Okay, B-U-C,
HK.
uh-huh.
O. V. ICH.
Okay. And Mike Seebeck is not here. David Aiken is here, and Mr. Quinlan is here. So, and Mr. Kane is here. So let's go back. Mr.
Mark Cavan is here.
Okay, and he's here for Mr. Lauer.
Correct.
Mr. Fure?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is that Mr. Fure?
It's Kevin.
Okay, got Kevin. So I have Mr. Fury's absent. Joshua Lamont?
Kyle stays a few blocks away.
Okay. Is Joshua here?
What I see.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, we are missing Mr. Fury, who's on his way, and Mr. Lamont, and we have two proxies, Mr. Bukovich and Mr. Cavan.
We have quorum. We can get started. We'll start with public comment. I'm not going to ask anybody to identify themselves, but if you have something to say, now would be your time. You have 2 minutes, so whoever would like to start.
I have a sign-in sheet for guests, if you could just do that, please.
Mr. Abbott.
Thank you, Chairman. I happen to be your liaison to the Center-Right Coalition. Two pieces are a Douglas County Republican Women in Lincoln Club picnic. If anyone would like a flyer, I've got a flyer for you. The other item is the Firearms Coalition of Colorado is asking for legislative letters against David Chipman, who is being nominated as Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives. Mr. Chipman was involved with anti-Second Amendment organizations, and his public pronouncements indicate he would be less than impartial official in this important post. And if you'd like details on how to avoid him, let me know. And the other is ranked choice voting in New York. You can see how the different rounds worked. In one of the rounds, from fourth from the right, you can see 3 candidates this is the graphics. It's not how all 12 or 13 rounds. You can see from this picture how votes started out and then who ends up as the final winner. And this visually presents that information for you. I think, does anyone have any questions about this visual diagram?
Can I get one of those documents?
Sure.
Thank you.
Others may have seen different, I'll bring next week, next meeting, another diagram showing how instant runoff voting is presented in a diagrammatic format for the public. And that's sort of is my approval voting here. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Atwood.
Josh, is on.
I'm John Burrows. I'm here to offer myself in consideration for the legislative director opening, so we'll probably talk about that later.
Okay, thank you. Secretary?
You had something else?
Yes, may I have 10 seconds to say the most important part of the treasurer's duties is submitting reports on time. Their accuracy is immaterial. Their timeliness is most significant from what I understand. Good luck.
Madam Secretary?
Okay. Normally I don't say anything during public comment, but if there's a time to say something that isn't related to a report. Over the past few board meetings, between members of the public and sometimes members of the board, but mostly members of the public, there's been some disagreement on some certain direction that the board has taken, particularly with messaging or with, for instance, considering a policy manual. And I'm going to tell you my perspective on this. The people elected to this board, the majority of them ran on bold messaging. I understand that some party members don't agree with that. The delegates have spoken, and I'm not sympathetic to a disagreement with the delegates. Take it up with the delegates next convention. Myself as secretary ran on doing my absolute best to get us to professionalize by adopting a policy manual. So I feel the same. Members who don't believe we need a policy manual, I respect your opinion. Take it up with the delegates next convention. I have my marching orders from the delegates, and I'm going to follow that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. Has everybody read it? Any additions?
Yeah, could I have a 60-second tech demo at the end of the agenda, just right before we head out the door?
That'll be part of your board report.
We could do that too. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
We will take just a moment. I'm going to break the agenda just a moment here. We
Yeah,
will
we
put
can-
together, it's real important that we follow our protocol on getting things added to the agenda. We need to try to get them added before Wednesday, before our meeting. That way we don't have to put our secretary through, jumping through a lot of hoops to add things at the last minute. So I'm going to ask all board members that have something that they would like to have added to the agenda, please get your thoughts together and get that over on the appropriate form to the secretary so she can get it added. It doesn't have to be swamped with a lot of last minute work.
Mr. Chair, there's something more important on that. Members have a right to know what we're going to be discussing. There's some members who there might be something that we might think is relatively inconsequential, but the minute they see it on the agenda, they go, my happy ass wants to be at that meeting. So we owe it to our members to give them adequate notice. There's times it's unavoidable, and that's what I signed up for as secretary. Sometimes I'm going to have to do extra work. I'm more concerned about the members having adequate notice.
Thank you. Has everybody read the minutes?
Proposed changes to the agenda.
Go ahead.
Can we, I'm not sure when I would slot this in, but Reese asked if we could put forth a motion to move the meetings to Tuesdays, the first Tuesday instead of the first Monday.
I have that. He proposed a request, so item 12.9, it's on there.
Oh, we must not have a up-to-date copy. We only have up to 12.6. Thank you.
That's what I got too.
It's on the OneNote.
Okay.
I just logged into that.
I'm looking at it, and
The OneNote instead of the Google Doc, correct?
Yeah, the
Okay,
OneNote's-
So that has the updated agenda?
yeah.
Okay, that was a little.
Yeah, OneNote will be our tool of choice to use, guys. Everybody get familiar with it. Everything's in one page. So it's easy for people to see the business plan, or not the business plans, the monthly reports, all that kind of stuff. So get used to it. I'm getting used to it right now, and I find it to be a tremendous tool.
Last minute changes to the agenda will be reflected on OneNote rather than that other document.
Thank you.
Okay, has everybody read the minutes that were provided by the secretary? Do we have any objections to those minutes? They're approved as written.
Mr. Chair,
Madam Secretary?
our bylaws also require the board to approve the convention minutes. They have been published to the public. I have not received any comment. And I would like, in this section where it's dealing with minutes, for us to consider approval of the convention minutes as well.
Okay? Has everybody had a chance to read the convention minutes?
Okay, I will start an email ballot then for the convention minutes, so that everyone can have a few days to read them.
Yeah, email ballots, guys, we want to keep it less than 72 hours, if at all possible.
What do you mean?
Responses, if there's any objections that need to be raised.
Well, our current standing rule says email ballots are open for 3 days.
Okay. We have reports from affiliate representatives. Is there anybody here from Arapahoe County?
Yes, this is Josh. So,
Josh, go ahead.
tomorrow night is around the happy hour. We are returning to the Casa de Hogue residence. The address is 21079 East Mineral Drive in Aurora. So hope everyone can make it out there.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. Anybody from Boulder? Delta. Didn't anticipate anybody from Delta. Madam Secretary, you have something added here about disaffiliation / dissolution. I'm guessing you wanted to speak to that while we're here.
Yes, 1 second here. I would, while everyone's here, and I put it, crap, my notes in the wrong spot. We need to deal with the issue of what is happening with Delta. However, I perceive that some of this might need to take place in executive session. So I would move, and I'm going to make a motion with a blank. I hate to do that to you, Mr. Chair. But I would move that this board meet electronically on blank date to discuss the issue of the Delta affiliate. And then I'm gonna wait to see if that's seconded.
Second.
Thank you. And the way you handle blanks is everyone makes suggestions to fill in the blank, and then people will tell you if they have conflicts or whatever, and we'll decide on which item fills the blank.
Okay. Anybody want to give some input at this point? That would include dates and times that you're available or not. Mr. Fury?
Yeah, could we just do it like right after this meeting? Potentially.
That could be one of the blanks, but if people wanted to stay late, some people don't.
Some people can't.
Some people, and actually technically, since my motion said a special meeting has to be at least 48 hours in advance, so I told you wrong, sorry.
Mr. King?
What's the scope of the meeting? Like what's more context?
Delta is, they don't have a current board, so we need to decide if we are going to basically disaffiliate them as a non-active affiliate, or if we're going to lay some plans to try to keep it alive. And also, there have been complaints and issues, and this is the part that I think will need to be in executive session, over what's going on with the page that's calling itself Delta Libertarians, which used to be the affiliate's official Facebook page.
They changed the name, and so they are, but we'll discuss that in executive session. This is going to be I am guessing at least a half an hour, maybe an hour-long meeting.
It would, I'm saying an hour long. That's what I would plan for.
And we can do that by Zoom. We don't
Yeah,
have to
Zoom.
meet belly to belly.
Should we leave that up to the affiliates director? It seems like it's kind of like his territory. Or maybe you guys could form a committee.
Our bylaws require that disaffiliation be dealt with by the entire board.
Okay.
And the solution that I intend upon proposing would also require the entire board. So,
Mr. King, once the decision is made by the board, then it would be dropped in the affiliate director's lap
Jim?
to run with the directive of the, and I'd be happy to help with that endeavor as well.
okay, if no one is going to propose dates, I'm going to propose next Monday. Where's my calendar?
18.
At 7 p.m.
Any objections to that time?
I'm sorry, no, 16.
What's it?
6.
16th?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's 16.
Okay, then the 16th.
I don't, can I interject real fast? I'm Robert Ballard, I'm the treasurer of the Mesa County Libertarian Party, and I was just wondering if I could sit in on that meeting as well.
Executive session is board members only. Robert, I'm sorry, but this is something that we have to discuss privately.
Okay.
I would encourage you, though, to come to our next board meeting where you'll have an opportunity to speak in public comments.
Okay.
And also, if you have something you'd like to discuss with me, this is Wayne Harlows. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to discuss anything, any concerns that you have, and what our thoughts are.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Yes,
Point
Madam
of,
Secretary.
point of order. The board can vote to allow non-board members in on executive session as long as the non-board member agrees to be bound by the secrecy of executive session.
Okay, thank you for the correction. Robert, I guess you're back on if you agree to.
No, the board has to vote.
If we approve. Do we have any objections to Robert participating
Wait,
as long?
stop, I'm sorry, no. We're still trying to, we haven't even set a meeting yet to even ask if somebody can
All
participate.
right, we'll get to that in a minute.
Sorry, it's,
Do we have a time now?
I
We're set up.
proposed August 16th at 7.
Any further input on that date and time? Any objections? Hearing none, we will be discussing the Delta affiliate on Monday the 16th, starting at 7 o'clock, and it will be by Zoom.
I have an additional motion to make.
Okay, Madam
Was that
Secretary?
the chair of Mesa that was requesting?
Robert, what is your position with Mesa County?
I'm the treasurer.
Treasurer, okay, thank you. We will, if you would, Robert, please send your contact information, email address, so that we can send you the link in order to participate. Would you send that to the secretary, please?
Yes, I will, and that's gonna be under what, I'll find contact, I'll send it.
Okay,
Okay, my additional motion is, I ask the board to approve that any affiliate who wishes to send a representative to sit on the executive session be permitted to do so as long as the representative agrees to abide by the secrecy of executive session.
you have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Okay, Madam Secretary, your motion has passed that any affiliate that wants to send a representative can sit in on the executive session as long as they follow the rules and the protocol involved with that session. Do we have anybody from Denver County?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
So the LP of Denver actually successfully held our quarterly board meeting with the help of Ryan Kane from the state board. The treasurer position was vacated by Sarah Bausman, and we appointed Sarah Grayson as the treasurer. And our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 17th, from 6:30 to 8:30 at Rubar.
Mr. Fury. Douglas County. Sean is the newly elected chair of the Libertarian Party of Douglas County, so this is his first time. This is where you can just kind of give an overview of where we're going in Douglas County and what's being planned.
Sure. So, first and foremost, we do have our convention coming up in October. We're trying to fill all of our vacant positions. So that is something that I will definitely be working towards doing. Our next meeting is the first Thursday of September, which I believe, let me double check. That is going to be the 2nd, and those are always at 6 o'clock at the Paradise Tavern in Lone Tree. And that is all I have for you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Vadney.
Yes.
Madam Secretary?
A question, I could be mistaken, but kind of, because I'm kind of sort of also the secretary of Douglas County. Wasn't our convention in November?
I believe it's in October.
I thought okay, I'll get with you afterwards. I think
Okay.
we moved it.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
I think we did move it, but we moved it for a reason that we had several of our board members were going to be out of town, so we moved it to November. But our normally scheduled convention is in October.
Okay, I'll get with you.
Sure, we'll discuss that.
Okay. El Paso County.
John Jersman, affiliate rep for El Paso County. Nathan Fouch is moving to Rocky Ford, so he's going to pretty soon not be our chair anymore. His wife was our education director at the last board meeting, which was Saturday. She tendered a resignation, and we appointed as an interim education director Steve Darnell. Our next meeting, next Thursday meeting, is going to be on the subject of climate change. It's going to be presented by Nick Schroeder, who is a retired engineer who's been studying this since '89, so I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you can all come. It's at
Great.
Tilted Kilt at 6 o'clock on the third Thursday, which is the 19th.
And you'll have that posted on Facebook as well as an email out to everybody?
Pretty sure, and I put it on, no, I didn't. I was gonna say I put it on the LPCO events, but I did not.
Okay.
I did put the gun show, we're having the Tanner Gun Show in Colorado Springs. The next one is October 1st and 3rd, we're gonna have a table. So if anybody wants to volunteer for that, you're welcome, sir.
And you've had pretty successful turnout to the gun shows and got a lot of information. I know you've been sending me every gun show you have, you send me 2 or 3 from Douglas County.
Yeah. Gun shows are fun too.
Yeah.
Well, outreach is fun. I think doing the quiz is fun. I just enjoy that.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman. Do we have anybody from Jefferson County? Okay, go ahead.
So we had our meeting on the third Thursday of July. Only real development was that our communications director is stepping down and don't have a replacement as of yet.
Okay. You'll be advertising that to the public, so good. Do we have any representatives from Mesa County?
That would be me again. So we meeting. Beyond that, no change since last board meeting.
Can I ask a point of privilege here? Mike, can you turn that microphone up? Bring up the microphone up, speak.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with it because it's all the way up here. Let me see if I can figure it out.
Okay, I'm going to ask anybody that's participating remotely, please speak up. It's quite hard to hear you here. And Madam Secretary, did you get his name?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. Anybody from Pueblo County? Okay, that wraps up our affiliate representatives. Next item on the agenda is report from the LNC representative. Madam Secretary, you have 5 minutes.
And I won't need that unless anyone has questions. It's been fairly quiet, thankfully, since the last board meeting. We have an LNC meeting coming up on September 4th through 5th, whatever that Labor Day weekend is. So I'm sure I'll have a lot to tell you after that. But I would welcome any questions.
I want
Go
to.
ahead.
I was told that the former chair's emails were obtained.
Yes.
There's an investigation ongoing into
Yes.
those. Well, do you know when that will be expected to wrap up?
I heard from that committee chair, because obviously they wanted everybody's emails, so I had to work with them to get them my emails. They're expecting to give a report at the September meeting.
Okay.
I will candidly tell you, my personal opinion is they're not going to find anything in the emails. Generally, people who do devious things are a little bit smarter than that, but they might. But I wouldn't get my hopes up on finding anything in the emails, but we should know something at that meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Atwood, if we don't have any objections from anybody? Go ahead.
Will ballot access focus on 50 states plus the District of Columbia?
We always do. And in fact, Alabama is on the radar this time. You know, we've had it's been terrible, but Mr. Winger has been putting in personal money towards that. And it's kind of on his bucket list of something he wants to do in his life. You know, he's older now. And we hope he will be with us forever. But we do want to make that come true for him. So it's coming along very well.
Great to hear. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions of Ms. Harlows? Hearing none, next item we have here is Region 1. That's Mr. Lucchini, but I saw that you had him on another agenda scheduled for 8 o'clock.
Well, we told him we would do that.
All right, I'm here now if you want to talk now.
Your turn, Chris. Go ahead.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So there hasn't been a lot of activity. I've asked state chairs to get me reports. I've gotten one. This is for the upcoming LNC meeting, so I would appreciate it if I could get a report from Colorado as well.
Okay.
I'm just poking, that's my job. So
You're not
I'm sure all of you saw
come to any more meetings, Chris.
Second.
Go ahead.
I'm sure all of you saw the sort of unprecedented decline in national sustaining members. And in New Mexico, we've already started this to call up the people who dropped membership and ask them why they dropped. And that's, we're about halfway through that. It actually should be done by tomorrow. It's actually kind of hard to get a hold of people. They tend not to answer the phone for numbers they don't know, so we have to use email and texting to get them to actually answer the phone. And so this has prompted a few of them to go ahead and rejoin national, as well as the state parties. I'm encouraging all of you guys to do the same thing.
And we are.
My browser just crashed.
Still there, Chris?
Hold on.
Our browser just crashed?
Mine did. Quite odd.
It's Lucchini's fault. Fire him.
I'm back.
That's a good roll.
And Vogoth poetry, if anybody remembers, Hitchhiker's Guide was next. So Vogon poetry. Anyway.
Don't forget you now.
You guys back?
Yes.
Yeah, we're back. Hey, Chris, I got a quick question
Hello?
for you. Can you hear me?
Wayne, can you hear me? Wayne, can you
Hey,
hear me?
can you
I
hear
can
us?
hear you fine, Chris. Mr. Ryan has a question for you.
Can you hear us?
Go ahead.
All right, quick question. Do yearly memberships automatically renew?
No, not unless you check the box.
Quick comment for
And
you.
that,
There was a similar, if not steeper drop off in 2016. So it's not unprecedented. I would check that since this is all 1 year after an election year, that we're just not renewing these 1 year memberships.
We tend to have sharp drops around the time of the convention, right? Because people sign up in order to participate in the convention, and you're correct about the election years, but I do believe if you look over the last 3 months, it's larger than we've had as a percentage basis, but we can talk about that later. The biggest issue here is to call the people up and mostly listen. Why did you let it drop? It turns out to be pretty effective in getting them to sign up. So again, the issue with communications is it's hard to get people to answer an email, answer the phone. Text messaging tends to get their attention, sometimes in a negative way. Be prepared to be cursed at. But nevertheless, I encourage all the state chairs to organize a committee to actually go after. I mean, look, your best bet for recruitment is people who used to be members. And anybody who is a member of the national party, not your state party, is obviously a prime candidate to join your state party and support it as well. So I'm going to promulgate this out to the various other state chairs in Region 1. Any state chair that doesn't want to do that, I've already organized volunteers to do it on their behalf. That's basically all the activities that have gone on. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot.
Any other questions of Mr. Lucchini?
So,
Guess not. Chris, you're off the hook now. Thank you for coming.
remember to get that report into me.
I love it. Bug them. Bug the hell out of them.
Fair enough. All right, now we have board reports. We're going to start with Chair. I have nothing to add to my board report. I'm assuming that everybody's taken the time to read all the board reports that have been posted.
You said you wanted to add something about Mr. Bruce.
Yes, forgive me, there is something I wanted to add. We had, Karen Ann and I met with Doug Bruce about 2.5 weeks ago. Had lunch with him, and he gave us a very interesting proposal. And we don't have all the details on it right now, but he has written and is sponsoring an activity that I think could be a real good moneymaker for us, plus help us to get some significant changes in the what was the name of that organization? You recall, Karen?
No, I don't, and I didn't bring the flyer with me.
No, and I didn't bring it either. But it has to do with petitioning changes, and it's significant. And he's willing to give $200,000 for 200,000 signatures. And if we can get a group of libertarian activists to collect signatures, they could keep 75% or 25% of what they earn, but he has $200,000 that we could, the LPCO could get a significant part of that. As example, any signatures that I collect, I'm going to give it all to the LPCO. This could be the biggest fundraising opportunity that we've had in many, many, many years. And so I will get a copy of what he gave to us out to the board members. And I want it to be considered quickly because the ball will start rolling here very soon. So let's keep this in the back of our mind. This could be the biggest change in how the public can affect public policy that we have ever had in the state of Colorado, if we can get this passed. And he's asking for 200,000 signatures from us. And he has a check for $200,000 to the LPCO if we do it. And once again, the volunteers who do it can keep a portion, or they can give it all to the state, but it could be a big opportunity for us to actually have some money in the account to help some of our candidates. So, Madam Secretary?
We're meeting with Doug again later this month.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have more details.
Yeah, we're having dinner with him next
2 weeks.
I think 2 weeks. And we'll have more information. And as we do, I'll make sure that all the board members here have that information. But this is something, guys, keep it in the back of your mind right now, and see if you can start putting together a group of volunteers who would have an interest in this, because this is very strongly a libertarian principle, and it's going to benefit not only the citizens of Colorado, but it will also benefit our state party as well. So there's no downside to us jumping in with both feet. So all I have on my report. Anybody have any questions? Vice Chair.
I don't believe I have anything to add.
Okay. We do not have a report from our treasurer. I was hoping that he would put together a report before our meeting tonight, but he resigned and didn't do a report. John, do you have access to all the financial stuff from him?
I don't.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
We need to move to accept his resignation. I'll also move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Atkin?
What's the status of the files and computer programs and stuff that he was given?
I have no idea. Mr. Hirschman, do you have any information on that?
He installed QuickBooks. I had a disk for QuickBooks. He couldn't use it, so he had to go online to install it. But he got QuickBooks installed, and he has. I've given him just the basic, essential files that he, hard copy files that he needed. I still have a whole bunch of files that he wasn't really ready to accept because he didn't have a place for it. Was that the question?
Since you live close to him, John, would you be willing to make contact with him and see if you can get anything that is the LPCO property from him?
Yeah, I probably should have all the stuff and have it ready to.
Okay. Once you have it, I'll come down and I'll pick it up from you, but I know you live very close to him. Madam Secretary?
Two things. I sent, Mr. Aiken had sent out the call for applicants. But I have an outstanding reimbursement that needs to be made. Do you know how I can get reimbursed?
Right now, the only two people that are on the checkbook are Nathan and me. So, John, if you would acquire the checkbook and get that into my hands until we have a permanent secretary.
Secretary.
Treasurer.
Or treasurer, excuse me.
You're on your way out.
Thank you, John. Anything else concerning the treasurer position? Did
We didn't deal with the motion.
You're correct. We had a second. Do we have any further discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, we're going to accept the treasurer's resignation.
Mr. Chairman, point of
Yes.
information.
Yes.
What would have happened if we had not accepted his resignation?
We'd be dragging him back in here right now.
Yeah, we said Daniel, he's armed.
Doesn't violate the map at all.
That's an interesting
He
question.
has a
I don't
contract
know that I even have the answer to that.
Oh,
Maybe our
shoot.
parliamentarian expert here would have an answer to that, but I don't.
It's interesting, then he would still be responsible. I think it's really quite awful. It's like the Hotel California. And then what would happen is he'd miss 2 meetings, and then per our bylaws would be automatically removed. But it's odd that you have to accept a resignation. It's like, no, you must stay, but.
Okay. Madam Secretary, your report? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, several things I would like to add. I wanted to go over with everyone, since there was some confusion as to our proper email voting procedure. So when somebody requests an email vote and it's seconded, the secretary prepares the email ballot. You don't vote until you get the email ballot. You don't vote on the request thread. If it happens, it happens. Like, I'm not gonna freak the hell out. But that's just the proper procedure. And if it's a ballot that needs to be opened right away, if you text me, I'll get it open right away. The email is then open for 3 days, at which point, after 3 days, the secretary will say the ballot's closed and give the vote totals. Per the standing rules we already have, email is supposed to be for non-controversial, I say non-substantive, but that's so, both of these are somewhat subjective. But upon the demand of any one board member that it's not appropriate for email ballot, it's done. It has to be put to the next meeting or special meeting. We're supposed to deal with things not mostly over email. So it's intended for things like approving convention minutes. Hey, I have $100 expense that needs to be approved. It's not meant for the example I like to give on my Roberts show, executing Mike Seebeck at 2 o'clock. That might be controversial. Might not though. Also, we do have an internal, quote unquote, secret email list that's the equivalent of executive session. I believe it's internal at lpcolorado.org. That should only be used for things, for matters of privacy, discipline, legal, or contractual, just like any executive session would be. But somebody had asked if we have that, and we do. It should be used very, very rarely. And lastly, I had sent back out and asked everyone to please use the agenda request form. It helps me keep the requests orderly. But I see everyone hopped on and did do that after I reminded everyone. And that's all I had.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Ryan.
So in the regards to the email ballot I sent out, did we get a total and like a ruling on that so I could get these guys the money for the booth?
I thought I put on there that it passed.
Okay, cool. I don't remember if I saw that or not.
Yeah.
Cool, good to go. Thanks for clearing that up, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. It gets crazy.
Okay. Affiliates.
Nothing bad.
Okay.
I actually have a question.
Go ahead.
Not necessarily for today, but something I'd like us to start thinking about is you probably would need to work with the chair. At convention, one of the goals was stated that we want to get the entire state affiliated. I did do, and I can tell you my vision for that is not necessarily, some of these more small counties, we're not gonna get enough people, but we can do multi-county affiliates. I know last term, there was a question that can't be done. I talked with the Secretary of State. It absolutely can be done. So I would like us, and if you wanted to form a committee to do this, I'd be willing to serve on it, to come up with a robust game plan to try to keep that promise to the delegates. If it turns out it can't be done, it can't be, but we need to try to keep, that was a promise made, we need to try to make it a promise kept. Maybe think about forming, because you can't do it all yourself, obviously,
Right.
a committee to do that. And maybe we could put out a call for volunteers for people to be on that. A lot of people are really passionate about the affiliates, and I think we can do this.
Yeah, so far I have 3 people on the committee, but I definitely need at least like 2 or 3 more probably.
Have you had a meeting yet?
No, we have not.
Gotta get that ball rolling. Our promise was to do our best in 2 years. We're a quarter of the way through the first year already. So that effort needs to be stepped up. If you need any help from me, let me know. But we have to really get this ball rolling. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Fury? Mr. Atkin?
The CRM will support multi-county groups, so we have that capability.
Beautiful, thank you, David. Mr. Vadney will speak if there are no objections. Hearing none, go ahead.
Just a quick question. When are you planning on holding those meetings?
I haven't really put any thought into when I'm holding that.
Okay, because that is something I might be interested in, so we'll talk about it.
All right. Yep.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Fury. I know we have proxy for campaigns for tonight's meeting. And that is, I believe, Mr. Cavan. Mr. Cavan, have you been given any type of a board report from our communications director, or from our campaigns director?
Negative. He's currently dealing with some family issues. So
No, I
that's why
understand.
I'm,
I wasn't
filling in
sure
for
if he
him.
had done that or not. Okay. Communications.
Nothing to add from Reese's report.
Okay. Thank you.
Reese's membership.
That's what I thought, but he looked.
Yeah, I know.
I don't actually know because I'm not.
Forgive me.
Yeah, I know.
You were correct.
That's Josh.
Communications. Josh.
Josh is probably going, hey.
Do you have, Josh, do you have anything you'd like to add to your report?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Just barely.
Yep.
So I want to upgrade the Hootsuite app to premium. So I would like to make a motion to approve $50 a month or $600 a year to do the Hootsuite.
Okay, we have a second on that?
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think it's a super valuable tool. I mean, we should just give them the 600. It's like pretty standard tool for any publicly facing company.
It will allow me to
Hold on a
help
minute.
organize the schedule and the what goes on all the social media better. So
Okay, Madam Secretary, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
In support of the motion, when I was communications director, I used Hootsuite. It's a fantastic program. And I researched them all and decided Hootsuite was the mom diggity.
Okay. Any further questions or comment? Without objection, we'll hear Mr. Hirschman. Hearing none, go ahead.
If you're going to spend money, how are you going to do it? Do you have a card?
Have to get it from Nathan. I don't have a card.
Okay, so the only guy with a card that's going to be valid is Mike Spalding. So you're going to have to run your stuff through him, I think, temporarily.
Okay, I will make the effort to, if you would get the card that Nathan has, he has a card, right? Okay.
I don't know if he's gotten it yet, but he should be getting.
If you would keep in touch with me, John, if I need to get involved, let me know. All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes to approve $600 toward the purchase of the Hootsuite program for our communications director. Next, we have fundraising.
Nothing to add.
Legislation. We don't have a legislative director right now, but we have 6 applications. And I believe we have at least one of the people that put in an application that is here.
There might be some. I believe
There may be some online.
Who are we looking for?
The applicants are Karen Schneider, Kevin Ruskuski, Thomas McNeil,
Thomas McNeil is here.
Justin Scott,
Nope.
Robert Ballard, and we have Jonathan Burrows here in person.
Robert Ballard and Thomas McNeil are the only ones on the call.
I'm sorry, who is here, Mike?
Robert Ballard and Thomas McNeil.
Okay.
And Mr. Burrows is here in person.
Okay, we'll start with Robert Ballard. Can you hear us, Robert?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. If you would tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on taking on this position, what your availability is during the legislative session, and then also tell us what your thought is on how you can help the Libertarian Party of Colorado grow through legislative activities, and basically give us your big picture here.
Well, unfortunately, the for this next legislative session, January through May, I will be out of the state most of the time. That doesn't mean to communicate with the legislatures here in Bismarck. Just won't be able to do it, Bismarck, excuse me, in Denver. Just won't be able to do it I'll be able in person. But I live here on Grand Junction, so that'd be difficult for me to do all the time anyway. I'm very familiar with our representatives here out of Mesa County, and I talk with them on a very regular basis. Overall, I think just having a consistent voice that's in the back pocket of our representatives of saying, you know, hey, you don't have to say yes to this, you don't have to concede to this, you don't have to make concessions just to impose more restrictions on our individual rights and individual freedoms. I think that's very important from the legislative director and the legislative committee.
Now, forgive me, did you say that you would be out of the country when the legislative session is not in session?
So if I'm not mistaken, the legislative session is from January to May, correct?
Yes. Under normal
yeah, so
circumstances, yes.
I'll be in Georgia during that time period, but I will have computer access mostly on the weekend.
Okay, thank you. Who else do we have, Mike, online?
Thomas McNeil.
Mr. McNeil, are you with us? Mr. McNeil? We'll come back to Mr. McNeil.
Are you able to hear me now? I apologize.
Okay, go ahead. You heard the questions of
Yes,
the previous candidate.
I have, and actually I'm going to kind of basically just advocate. Mr. John Burroughs is someone that has already posted a better plan than I am capable of executing by any measure, really. I'm exceptionally inexperienced and probably not the person in this position. So I just wanted to make sure that I did show up as I had agreed to, but I think you have better candidates on the floor at the moment.
Mr. McNeil, we're having a very, very hard time hearing you. Could you get into a private room, please?
Yes, 1 moment. All right, I apologize for that interference.
Okay,
Is that better?
I'm going to ask you to start all over because I didn't hear a word of what you said.
Okay. Basically, I am going to stand and just basically advocate my application. You guys have better applicants already available. I am inexperienced and honestly just kind of an annoyance for the most part. I'm good at irritating people, but for the most part, you guys have better people. Specifically, Mr. John Burroughs has already put out a idea on Discord that I thoroughly agree with, and I think my name should be removed. Is the long and short of it.
Ms. McNeil, you're withdrawing your request?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. We have Mr. Burroughs here in person. Go ahead.
So I have a few thoughts about what I would do as the legislative director. Okay. The first thing is libertarians, we're a ragtag kind of bunch, right? And we really have to figure out a way that we can punch above our weight. So what I would really try to do is build coalitions with other people and other parties, look at particular issues and find allies in those issues that will work with us. I'll give you an example. So House Bill 1191 was offered in the spring. It was offered by the minority Republicans. It was to prevent vaccine discrimination, to prevent employers from preventing people or requiring people to have vaccinations to work there. I know it's a little bit of a mixed issue for us, but I think we need to get clear on it. In this example, I would say I'm looking at it like CDC is making guidelines, which are then passed down to become mandates by either government or by companies. It's and if you look at it like basically a fascist type system where companies become the lapdogs of a tyrannical authority at the federal level that's not accountable to us as not accountable to us, and our representatives also become lapdogs of the CDC by taking their guidance and not representing the people. So I wrote a letter to the representative who offered the bill, expressing my support for her. Now I looked and saw it, May 12th the bill was killed. But after some debate, there's an article, there's quotes from people who spoke for the bill against mandatory vaccinations. One is a lawyer. I wrote to her on LinkedIn, asked to contact with her, saying that I'm looking for allies in that area. So that's an example of the kind of thing that I would do, all right? Another thing is that I would, of course, invite anybody who is interested in this position to also, if I were to win, help me, because it's a lot of work. In terms of the legislative session, I do have a full-time job. I'm an engineer, so I can't, spend weeks at the Capitol or something like that. Just to be totally upfront about that. But what I would try to do is not just work during the legislative session, but before the legislative session, to build coalitions so that people can show up en masse for certain issues. We don't need to go wave flags and anti-lockdown signs in front of the Capitol. We need to have those people showing up at these legislative discussions to back us up. And so basically, I want to look for ways for us to punch above our weight, and then also in the process, we possibly could build our membership in coordination with the outreach. That's basically the idea I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. Madam Secretary, would you read off all of the candidates one more time, please?
And I'm going to have a motion.
Okay.
Karen Schneider, Kevin Wiskuski, Thomas McNeil.
Thomas McNeil, which group?
Sorry. Justin Scott, Robert Ballard, and Jonathan Burrows.
Point of
order. Noda.
Mr. Lutz?
Noda.
Noda is always a candidate, yes.
And then second point of order, Blake Huber, did that individual withdraw? I noticed they were on the...
It was an old application that I didn't clear out, kind of like New York, with the way they didn't clear out the RCB test.
Good to go.
Thank you for paying attention, Mr. Lutz. Okay, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, this is, I would ask that the board direct the secretary to start an OPA vote ballot. It's just an electronic system to vote to fill the legislative director position within the next, to send out the ballot within the next few days, with all of these candidates minus Mr. McNeil and Noda.
Seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? Any objections? Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, are we able to just vote on that at the meeting?
Give everybody a chance to read, think through their thoughts. We can, if you vote no and we don't have support for it.
I would like to speak to my motion as well.
Madam Secretary?
The reason why I'm saying to do it over OPA vote, some people didn't make it to the meeting tonight. They may email and give a reason. Board members can always individually email any of these candidates or call them with additional questions. So it gives board members time to vet the candidates. For instance, even though he's withdrawn, I had an extensive phone call with Thomas McNeil, and I probably will call a few other of these candidates, or may want to speak to Mr. Burrows or Mr. Ballard further on the phone before I make my decision.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. So we have a motion on the floor to start an open vote for the legislative director position. We had a second, I believe. Mr. Lutz, did you second that one?
I did.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, point of information. Would a countermeasure come afterwards or like now?
Countermeasure?
Like if we were to propose to just do it now, would we do that as like a counter proposal now, or do we do that after we vote on this?
You can vote it down,
Okay,
and then if that position wins, then we can have further discussion on that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to start an open vote? Any objection?
I object.
Okay. Madam Chair, or Madam Secretary, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Is there any further debate though? No? Okay, one moment. I need to set up this template. Okay. Mr. Fiore?
No.
Ms. Goodman?
No.
I am going to vote yes. Mr. Kane?
No.
Mr. Lalamont?
He just dropped off.
I'll come back. Mr. Cavan?
No.
On behalf of Mr. Labrie?
No.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Is Mr. Lalamont back on?
No, he's been in and out the whole time.
Okay. Mr. Chair, it's 2-5.
Okay. That motion fails. Now would be the time to make a different motion if you're so inclined, whoever wants to.
Motion to hold a vote for the position of the meeting right now.
Call the question.
Call the question.
Is what you're trying to do, yeah.
Okay.
No, there isn't
No,
a motion.
there's
It's
no-
not a
And there's no
vote.
motion to
Oh,
vote on it
okay,
yet.
that's right, yeah.
He made a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion on this?
Yeah, I'll just throw my hat in the favor of John. First of all, he showed up. Second of all, I totally agree on the tactic. And also, I don't think he's mentioned this, but he has run a campaign that's pretty successful by Libertarian standards before. I think he said he got like 4% of the vote in Arizona. He's qualified. I agree with his strategy exactly, and I'm probably gonna be the person working the closest with him. So I endorse John 100%.
Madam Secretary?
I just would like to object. Sometimes I get tongue-tied. Mr. Ballard also has shown up. I just want to be clear, because we have board members who attend virtually all the time, and if we are going to say the only people who show up are the people who are in person, then we're also disparaging our fellow board members on that count. So I just would like the record to be clear that both Mr. Burrows and Mr. Ballard did show up.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any more discussion?
Second.
I have a point of inquiry to the maker of the motion.
Go ahead.
How do you propose the vote take place? Would it be a written ballot?
Can we do hand approval
But we have people,
virtually, so that makes it.
I mean, one reason I proposed to do the open
Because it
vote.
makes it a little easier on you. Can we do that virtually? Can do the hand raise on Google Meet, right?
Yeah, they can.
Okay. Then, yeah, hand raise approval voting.
Okay.
Wait. Hand raise approval voting? That's different.
We just go around and just say.
You just
like,
go around,
yes or
like
no.
we did at the convention, that's approval voting, right?
Well, some of them were and
Some
some of them were not.
If we can take just a moment. Do you want a straight up and down vote? Vote for one person who believe it, or you vote for anyone who believe that?
Anyone which helps.
Okay, so yes, you want an approval voting. Just want to make sure.
That's it. I just don't want to approve.
Yeah.
I thought that's how we did it. Almost there.
So are we clear on what you're asking for?
Yeah, approval vote.
Approval vote. Okay, any further discussion or questions? Without objection, we'll hear Mr. Hirschman. No objections, go ahead.
If all these applicants have sent in written who I am type thing, even though they're not here, maybe the secretary would have access and could read them?
I sent them to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, it had confidential information, so it was sent on the private list, but they have received all the applications.
Any further questions? We'll bring this motion to a vote. We have a motion and a second. What we're going to be voting on is we're going to be using approval voting to vote for our legislative director position tonight. And approval voting means that you can vote for 1, 2, or 3 people. And we'll be doing it by a show of hands. So we'll start out with Karen Schneider. All in favor of Karen Schneider? Go ahead.
Is this vote to hold the vote in a certain manner, or is this a vote to vote on the candidates?
Right, we haven't voted yet on the motion to do this vote.
Forgive me. Thank you, David. Okay, we'll take a vote on whether we're going to be able to use approval voting for the selection of our legislative director.
No, the motion is motion to elect legislative director position now via approval voting. That's the motion.
Okay. We already have a second. Do we have any objections?
Objection.
Go ahead.
I just, in general, I think this is forcing the vote, so I'm going to use this opportunity to state that I will be voting NODA because I do not feel I have enough confidence in the candidates. I have a couple of additional questions that I really would like to have had answered, so objecting so I can put out on record, I'm voting NODA. For a reason.
Madam Secretary?
I'm going to reiterate that. Everyone could do what they like, but I do think when other board members say they would like additional time, it's only courteous to give them the additional time. We had the same situation come up with in national, with the chair vote. A majority vote is required to elect, and I too will be voting NODA in objection because I just don't think this is the right or proper way to handle things, even though I do have a preference for candidate. So I would ask the board to really consider what they're doing, because putting things when it costs you nothing over the heads of your fellow board members comes back to bite you in the ass later.
Okay. So we will bring that motion to a vote. Madam Secretary, would you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Fury.
Yes.
Ms. Goodman.
Yes.
I'm voting no. Mr. Kane.
Yes.
Mr. Lalamat.
I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Cavan.
Yes.
For Mr. Labrie.
Yes.
Mr. Lutz.
No.
So, Mr. Chair, it's 5-3.
That passes. So we will take our vote tonight. Once again, this is approval voting. You can vote for 1, 2, 3, or all of the candidates. Although if you vote for NODA, none of your votes count.
But no, what?
Except for NODA.
Except for, you can only vote for NODA.
Only vote for NODA. Any other votes won't count. So we'll start with Karen Schneider. With a raise of hands, I'd like to see everybody that is for Karen Schneider.
How do you raise your hand?
Online, you're just gonna need to say something out loud, because I do need to note names for elections for my minutes.
Okay, that's easier anyway. Thank you.
Okay, anybody for Karen Schneider? Kevin Ruskuski.
I'll vote yes.
Who is that?
Communications.
Okay.
Josh.
Thank you.
All those who would like to have Justin Scott consider. Robert Ballard. Jonathan Burrows.
Yes. Vice Chair.
So hold on, I've got Ms. Goodman, Mr. Fury, Mr. Kane.
Campaigns.
Kevin. Can't pronounce your last name, but
Bukovich.
But for Mr. Labrie, did I miss anybody?
This is Josh. I'll vote yes too.
Okay,
Did you get the vice chair?
I got the vice chair.
Sorry about that. Man. Corporate Google has a little hand raise
So I have
button.
Goodman, Fury,
So it makes it
Kane,
the free version. My bad.
Kevin, Labrie, and Lomar.
And Noda. Anybody want to vote for Noda? We have 2 votes for Noda. When you're ready, Madam Secretary.
Okay, a majority was achieved by Jonathan Burrows with 6 votes.
Mr. Burrows, you have been elected to the Legislative Director position of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. Madam Secretary?
With the indulgence of the body, I'd like to just apologize to Mr. Ballard and Mr. Burrows. You both would have gotten my vote. My nota was in protest to something that had nothing to do with you 2 gentlemen.
Oh, no, yeah, I mean,
I just wanted that to be clear.
Yep.
Yeah, no offense taken here, and sounds like you guys' vote was probably the better one of the 2, so congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next we have membership report.
Oh, is that me? Okay.
It's your turn.
That was, you didn't look at me that time. No additions from Reese's report.
Okay, thank you. Outreach, Madam Secretary.
A point of inquiry. If I send the link to Mr. Burrows to affirm the SOP and the NAP pledge, would he be seated then this meeting?
Do you have a way to sign a form right now?
I send it to you by email and you just electronically?
Yeah, on my phone, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I'll send that to you right now.
As a point of membership on our board, you have to affirm the statement of
Bylaws
principles.
requirement.
Yes.
Does it require him to be the next meeting? No, I mean like after he signs that.
Oh, no, after, no, he's elected right now. The only, it's out of
so
our.
there wouldn't be another.
No, it's just that you have to affirm those 2 things.
Okay, yeah.
Next report we're looking for is from Outreach. Mr. King.
Yeah, I submitted my report before the meeting. So
Okay, I'll get it.
Sorry about the little mix-up there. I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna add anything to it, but I'm gonna go over what I said, just because most people probably didn't have the time to read it. So a couple of things. 10 of the Denver.
You have 5 minutes, Mr. King.
Cool. 10 of the Denver affiliate meeting. Met with our Joe Hamilton and Brian Piotr. Got them data for Ward 2 in Aurora and then Ward 3 races in Broomfield. We got data from open data from both of those counties, and really cool stuff there because they have GIS parcels, so you actually see every property owner in their ward, and then we map that onto the Secretary of State data, so we have a visual of like every Libertarian voting house, and then me and Mr. Caven, who's on the call, went over an algorithm to get these guys their petition ballot signatures in the most efficient way possible, and we have a spreadsheet going for that right now. So that might be a relevant update also for campaign, since Greg is dealing with family issues. I covered about 3 of those bullet points. Next bullet point is you can go to news.lpco.org. I made a membership newsletter that was in development for a couple months, and you can go check it out right now. It's not official yet, and we have to wire it up into like PayPal Stripe to do payment processing. But as part of the the pitch I gave at our initial meeting, that newsletter is going to be huge for our goals for raising funds. So I was hoping to have that done for this meeting, so I was making a motion. I was hacking it on a weekend. It didn't get fully completed yet, but that's going to be ready to go live in the next 30 days, and then I will send out a mass communications to our whole email list and ask them if they would be willing to subscribe. But also we have to go into more detail and stuff. Next board meeting will
Did you say you had a motion in there somewhere, Mr.?
No motion until the next board meeting.
Okay,
but
thank you.
it's just not ready yet, but you can check it out on your phone, news.lpco.org, or your desktop.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kane. Madam Secretary.
I'll get with you outside the meeting. I'm working with that group that's doing a protest in DC on September 11th for End the Damn Wars. Sent me over the info for how we can help sponsor a sister protest in Denver. And some other, I know we don't agree with them on anything else, but we agree with them on the wars thing. The Democratic Socialists of America were also...
I've tried to reach out to them.
Yeah, they're interested. There's also a free Julian Assange group that's interested. So we might be able to have a coalition, and so I'll let you know, but I'll help spearhead getting that set up.
A big strategy going forward, and what I'm excited to bring John on to, and this new platform, is making these single issue lists like that, and that's how we're going to get a ton of leverage. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I'll get with you on that.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Kane at this point? Okay, I have one thing I'd like to bring up. I know you've been under the gun with a lot of things, Mr. Kane. It's important to try to get your board reports in, even if you have to amend them, get them in by Wednesday, so what you do have completed, Mr. Atkin can put up on the website. It's not fair to put him under the gun because he didn't have that much time. He's very, very busy with the CRM program, or the program that he's assisting with on national. So I'm going to implore upon every board member here that we get our board reports in by Wednesday. It puts some of the other people at a tremendous disadvantage with their time, and their time is every bit as important as our time is. So we need to be cognizant of that and respectful of it.
Okay, quick response to that. I have to focus to be productive. I'm on this very high value project for the LPCO, which was that newsletter, and I had to just essentially know exactly what my requirements are. And I asked, and I just didn't see that requirements. Now I know it's in the standing rules. I didn't see that document from 2016. We'll get them in on time here on out, that's fine. Apologize for anyone that put at disadvantage. But there's very good time being used and a conscious reason for not turning those in.
You know, one of the things, thank you, Mr. Kane. One of the things that I found is very valuable is that if you are running behind because of other commitments you have that are benefiting the state party, when the request comes out, say, hey, I won't be able to get my board report done in time. Don't leave everybody hanging. That way everybody just gets angry. And that's not beneficial to anybody. So let's just try to get them on time. If we can't, make sure that the rest of the board knows what, you know, I'm running behind right now. I got my hands in 4 different things, and I'll get it to you as quickly as I can. Madam Secretary, you had something you wanted to raise?
Yeah, that's just to say, listen, I'm the queen of late reports. So I just did the minutes today, so I'm not, you know, I just would like us to let David know so he doesn't have to keep asking. I'm just, he's a volunteer, has been with us forever, doesn't even get a vote, so I try to be pretty considerate. Like, we can abuse each other a little bit. I mean, we kind of signed up for it by running for a position, but David didn't, and I'm just like super protective of David.
Okay. Next item of business. Committee reports. We have the website committee is our first ad hoc committee. Mr. Kane, do you have a report on that? And by the way, in the future, we need a written report if you can do that too.
Okay, we're not touching the website right now. There's a ton of really high value other development work. There's a system in place that a bunch of people know how to use. We can build other valuable tools in parallel, so it's just not worth the time to touch it. Maybe in a few months we can talk about it. It would greatly value or benefit the LP Colorado. We can get in technical reasons like SEO stuff and usability and stuff like that, but we're going to build really useful tools in parallel here going forward, and we can still keep that and use that with how everyone already knows how to work that website.
Madam Secretary?
Mr. Kane, then for the future agenda, I'll remove this from the agenda if you let me know when the ad hoc committee might want to report again. I'll add it so that we're not bugging you until you're ready.
Perfect.
Okay. Mr. Seebeck is the chair of the Style Committee. He has some family issues right now, and he was not able to be here. Special orders, we have Mr. Lucchini, who has already spoken. Next one we have is set the town hall meeting date. Our original date that we had scheduled did not happen for several reasons. The first out there and then see what type of participation we get. I think after we've done 3 or 4 of those, we'll have a good feel as to whether we should continue. I think we probably will, but let's schedule our next town hall meeting date. Would you like to speak to that? Yes, go ahead.
I would like to set a town hall meeting date for Monday, September 13th at 7 p.m. via Zoom.
Point of order, isn't that our regular?
September 13th, is that our regular?
That's our regular meeting.
Then I'm a derpity derp. Then September 20th.
Seconded.
Okay. We have a motion to have our first town hall meeting on September
20th. At 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m. and
Via
that will
Zoom.
be held by Zoom. Do we have any discussion?
Do you have a second?
Seconded.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't know that. I didn't hear.
Do we have a discussion?
I'll yell it next time.
Any objection? Okay. It is scheduled for September 20th. Guys, you don't all have to be there, but I think certainly for our first attempt at this, it would be very much to the LPCO's advantage if everybody is there. It's a Zoom meeting, so it doesn't require any travel time, so make it a priority. The better our first one goes, the more participation we're going to get on the second one. And we can build upon that. And right now, we are doing whatever we can to try try to build a very, very strong consensus that we are doing the right thing in LPCO. There's enough people out there that are trying to disparage our efforts right now, and we need to make sure that we overcome those with good efforts. So this is the first opportunity. Next item we have here, we had no objections, correct?
Correct, that's what you had.
Yep. So the next item of business we have is a convention committee selection. Ms. Harless, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I messed up. I thought I sent David an email to send out a solicitation, and I apparently did not. We did get one out today. We got in 2 applicants, neither of whom were registered libertarians. So I told them that we require our committee members to be registered libertarian, and would they consider changing their registration, because these types of committees, if they want to work, as long as they're registered libertarian, we're usually good with it. But we are required per our bylaws today to at least start setting up that committee. So I would like to, well, first of all, are there any board, because I'll add you to the motion, if there's any board members that want to be on this committee?
I think that's a given.
Okay, Mr. King.
Mr. King?
Okay, so I would.
Anybody on the line like to volunteer to help with the convention committee? Okay.
Mr. Vadney, were you?
I'm gonna have to think about that.
There's an application in your email box, I'm sure. If you want to fill out the application, that way we'll have you on there.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, I would like to move that Mr. Lutz, Ms. Harlos, and Mr. Kane be appointed to the convention committee, with Mr. Lutz serving as convention committee chair.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. The convention committee will be chaired by Mr. Lutz. Mr. Kane and Ms. Harless are also on the convention committee. There will be some other applications come in, so we will add additional members as the applications come in. Now we have some unfinished business. Wrapper for the outreach trip.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Could I motion that we take a 5-minute recess? Use the restroom? Do we ever do that?
You usually just go and do it.
Go ahead. Just go.
Oh, cool. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Yep.
Cool.
Libertarians have no bladders.
First item of business is the wrapper for the outreach trip. I'm going to take this off right now because I have not been able to get a firm commitment that the wrap, any wrap that I have researched, can be removed from John's trailer without leaving an imprint on it. And unless, John, you're okay with that, I'm going to take this off the table right now.
Actually, yeah, I don't care.
It might make it more difficult to
I
sell.
don't mind advertising it.
If you ever want to sell it, it'll make it more difficult to sell.
But I might want to buy it.
Yeah.
I think many of us would want to buy it.
Well, actually, if you're not an objection to that, then I need to go back once again and get some additional quotes, because right now I was just calling people to find out if they could guarantee me that the wrap could be removed without leaving an imprint on the trailers, so we're gonna have to extend that to next month as well. Next item here, we have the status.
That's a mistake. That was dealt with last meeting.
Which one?
The status of outreach signs. I meant to remove that. Mr. Kane addressed that the last time, that he was going to work with the messaging committee. There was some that needed to be weeded out. It's just not urgent that was needed to be on here. I meant to remove that.
Okay.
I'm gonna use some of that money. We have a few narrowed down. It's not 100%, and then we're going to get some signs for the first Loveland Gun Show. So we can talk about that more.
And that could be, moved over email. I'm sure I'm going to be asking for some for the End the Damn Wars thing too. So that could all go to email, I think.
Specifically, these signs that we voted on are the 2x3 signs that are large enough to be carried in a parade. They could also be set up around outreach booths and gun shows and things like that. But just make sure they're large enough that they can be seen if we're using them for a parade. And then we can also set them up around booths and things like that as well.
We will have at least some of those 2x3s ordered by the end of this month, and we can talk more about what additional signs for the war stuff and stuff
Well,
like
right now, we don't have a mechanism to pay for it until we get our debit card back and our checkbook back. So we will be working on that as well, so that when you're ready to run, we can pay for it.
Okay.
Next item of business here is Ms. Harless moved that the LPCO adopt the policy manual sent for review prior to the July 2021 meeting. That's back on the agenda today. Would you like to speak with that?
I'm
Ms.
actually
Harless?
not moving that because of discussion with Mr. Lutz. But what is now before the board, Mr. Lutz suggested that a subcommittee of the board, meaning a committee comprised only of board members that wish to serve, take another review for it. I preferred that the board review it in quasi-committee of the whole, which just basically means an informal meeting of the entire board where things are hashed out, and then at the next board meeting, the board just formally adopts it. So my question is, to get the sense of the board, if everyone on the board wants to have input on it, and I'll tell you why I want quasi-committee of the whole rather than just a subcommittee. The board's the one that's gonna have to adopt it, so we might as well hash out all the debates ahead of time in quasi-committee of the whole, rather than have it go to a subcommittee. The subcommittee makes a decision, it brings it back to the board, and then there's all these debates. To me, that just adds another layer. The way quasi-committee of the whole would work is we would set an electronic meeting in which we would go over the policy manual. If it required a second meeting, that would be determined at that meeting, and a second meeting would be set. And then at the next board meeting after that, after everything been hashed out, there would be a vote to approve it. Quasi-committee of the whole, there's still motions and votes, but there's not the strict time limits, and the regular chair doesn't chair the quasi-committee of the whole. A different person chairs the quasi-committee of the whole. So it just depends on if everyone wants to participate. I can't force you to. I want everyone to. So I guess I'm wanting to hear from the board.
I don't even want the policy manual, and I would definitely consider each of these rules individually, but I just don't want it. I hate fighting about rules and forming committees about rules, and I think a lot of this stuff should be more organic and bottom up as we go. So that's my piece.
Any other discussion?
Yes, you know,
Ms. Goodman, go ahead.
there's been a lot of members that have come to me that are very much against it as it stands. And I've heard a lot of really good arguments for the way that John explained it the last time, why he, the previous board didn't pass it. And his recommendation was to go passing one by one. And I really like that. I think it gives it a lot more control. And again, that's what members have told and come to me and asked for directly.
Mr. Lutz?
So, I actually don't think we are at the size where we need a policy manual. We are at the size where we need to start thinking about one. And why are we gonna hamstring ourselves when we have an outline that we can already start working with? I don't think we need one. I think we want one before we need one. We don't want to find ourselves in a position where we have grown so big that we are now having months and months long drawn out battles over policy manuals and stuff like that. That's why I like the idea of the quasi-committee of the whole. We take this, we trim it down, we get rid of a lot of the redundancies and the problems that are in there, and then we have something much smaller, easier to work with that we can implement and make it easier on a future board by taking this fight out of their lap.
Ms. Harlow?
I heard from the same members. They are the same members who were on the losing side of the debate at convention. And I do not believe in relitigating an issue at convention. That issue had come up, and it was a primary thing I ran on, and I was elected on it. The same people who lost at convention, the fact that they say it 10 times again after convention, does not make it any more persuasive than the losing vote at convention.
But no supporters came out and talked to me about supporting it. And I've actively reached out and tried to talk to people about this because I was very much neutral on it, and I don't know what is the best course of action. So I'm going to lean back on the constituency, and the people that are talking to me are going to get listened to. I would like for people that are in support of it to reach out to me and also give me their perspective. I'm definitely open to that. I believe in giving the people a voice, no matter who those people are. I don't differentiate members. There's no winning or losing side. We are a party, and I want to get elected into office to fight liberty. I would never consider another member second class, ever. Ever.
It's not a member considering second class. Let's just say, for instance, somebody came to a meeting that, see, the thing, I'm trying to do this in a way that's not, because I'm not trying to be inflammatory. Our conventions are the marching orders for the board. That's the purpose of a convention. That is the assembly. And when marching orders have been given at convention, they don't get overturned outside of convention, is what I'm trying to say. It's not a second-class member. There are votes that I lost at convention. I don't relitigate it throughout the year because that's just, we can infight all year. The time to readdress broad level marching orders is at the next convention. To go one by one, I don't care if we do that too. I don't really care the format that we adopt a coherent policy manual. I think that's not as efficient, but if that's what everyone's more comfortable with, I'm fine with that too. Rules, to just disagree with Mr. Kane at one point, it's all fine and nice to say you want organic rules until it's your rights or your responsibilities that are on the line. Having been the subject of an attempted political assassination of the LNC, I can tell you that I have a lot more appreciation right now for clear rules. Because the next thing you know, you get a board or a group you don't like that's trying to deny you, let's say something as simple as due process. You want to know what saved my ass? These fucking rules, not my fellow LNC members. The policy manual clearly defines rights and responsibilities. You don't play loosey-goosey with rights and responsibilities. You're either going to be a professional political party that is worthy of the title of the third largest political party in the country, or you have a club. I don't care what the rules are eventually that we pass. I don't even care if we write a whole other one. But we need to start being a professional organization. We're a top 10 affiliate. We're one of the only top 10 affiliates that doesn't have a policy manual, and there's a reason for that. So if we want to do it piece by piece, I'm fine with that too, if that's what the board would prefer. Which means that I'm going to be coming to every single meeting with like 5 motions to approve this and this and this. I think that's very inefficient. But, as I said, I made a promise to the delegates that by every effort I possibly could, I was going to have us have a coherent policy manual. So, if the board would prefer to do it piece by piece, I'm fine with that too.
Would you restate your motion, please, Ms. Harless?
Well, I was asking the sense of the body first.
Okay.
No, Mr. Kane.
John's had his hand up.
I
Excuse me,
object.
Mr.
I object. I would like this discussion confined to the board right now, but you guys can overrule me.
This is Mark Haven. I just have a quick question, if that's okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Cavan.
Since I'm not actually a board member, can you just give me a brief summary of the policy manual? What's the difference between the policy manual and the bylaws?
The policy manual is like special rules of order and standing rules. So an example of a standing rule would be board reports are due by Wednesday. An example of a special rule of order would be that even though our parliamentary authority doesn't require amendments to be in the minutes, we want the secretary to put amendments in the minutes. It's things, what it is tailoring this very broad rule book, I'm holding up Roberts, to be more specific to us and to work for us. Special rules of order have superior precedence over Roberts. So if there's something in Roberts we don't like, we make a special rule of order.
Did that answer your question, Mr.
Thank you.
Cavan?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. King?
I just don't think that that election was a referendum on the policy manual.
We're not debating that at this point.
Oh no, I brought it up, I think we are.
Go ahead.
That's so, happy to hear them out. Start off one at a time, and if one rule establishes the policy manual, makes sense, maybe we can go from there and we can expand that to more and more rules all at once. But I just think we have we have bylaws. When we're a larger organization, more structure does make sense. I think we're over-engineering this a little bit at this point. Yeah, that's my piece.
Go ahead.
So can they just be changed at any time by the board?
They can be, yes, yeah, it is, and as I said before, I'm very averse to this term, but it is very much a living document. The LNC amends its policy manual nearly every meeting. Sometimes, for example, some of the last amendments were the FEC changed its limits, so we changed what the requirements are to be a member of the chairman's circle. An issue came up with a concern that the secretary or the chair could delay the start of an email ballot, so we put in the policy manual that email ballots have to be started within 3 days of request, things like that.
So why wouldn't that just be written into the bylaws?
The bylaws are intended to be existential rules for the survival of the organization, and special rules of order are supposed to be for your daily operations.
Got it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Questions? We already had an objection to board members only, Mr. Hirschman.
But he's entitled to a vote on that.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to get there in a second here. So we're going to bring this to a vote. Would anybody like to hear Mr. Hirschman? Okay.
I would.
Okay. Looks like it's almost everybody. Go ahead, Mr. Hirschman.
Thank you very much. This book was presented to the C&B committee, and some of the members took it by Betty Rose Ryan, and I think it's pretty well written. And they have a chapter on policy manuals, and with the board's indulgence, I'd like to read the first paragraph.
Okay.
It's why is it important? A policy and procedure manual contains the society's day-to-day business activities in a concise, consistent textual format. It's a detailed expansion of the society's operating procedures or bylaws, and is often called an operational handbook. All societies, whether large or small, should have a policy and procedure manual because it removes gray areas of assumed or ignored operation. It curtails hazardous management syndromes such as herd mentality, reinventing the wheel, let George do it, or nobody told me. And I've always thought that we need a policy manual. And my only real objection to the one that's currently being offered is its format. the way it's put together, it's just standing rules and special rules of order. And a policy manual should be more than that. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman. Go
If
ahead,
I-
Ms. Secretary.
A policy manual is, though, everything you described from there is standing rules and special rules of order.
I agree.
And
The
the format is cribbed from National.
That was our problem.
No, it actually was from Alicia Matson, and she's brilliant.
Okay, any further discussion? Would you like to make a motion? Oh, go ahead.
I will say that having things formalized like the director's reports would have saved confusion just today, because it was in a
Well,
document.
it is
yeah,
formalized, it just wasn't, you didn't know it.
Yeah, put in some, it's a website from like 2016. I imagine it would then be put like alongside the bylaws and everywhere else, so.
Okay, would you like to make a motion, Madam Secretary?
I don't know.
Mr. King, you want to be recognized?
Yeah. Form a committee, rank order the bylaws, or not the bylaws, the policies, and like what makes the most sense and is the best trade-off to least. And then we could just start going through them and let people think more on them individually instead of passing it all at once.
Point of information, are you asking us to form a committee to just prioritize the stuff before it's even gone over?
I don't know, it's up to Ms. Harlow's, it's her baby. I'm saying, like, I don't want to kill this right now, I just don't want it right now.
I think what he's suggesting, which I wouldn't object to, is to form a committee to start going, to form a committee that will report out each meeting with suggestions on standing rules or special rules of order to adopt at that meeting. So group by group, like maybe here's 3.
Here's the 3 that make the
Right.
most sense, and this will establish a policy manual with 3 rules. Come to the next board meeting with that, and I think that would be.
Yeah, and then the next meeting
More-
you might add to it.
Yes.
So he's saying doing it with the committee to teams most important down, but doing it in bite-sized chunks for the board to consider and amend if necessary.
Yes, that would be my suggestion.
And I'm amenable to that.
So that'd be a subcommittee we would need then.
Right, so then it would be your motion, what members you suggest.
Okay. In that case, I would like, Mr. Chair, I would like to move that LB Colorado creates a subcommittee for reviewing of the policy manual. And I would propose that this committee consist of myself, Ms. Harlows, Mr. Lauer, and Ms. Goodman.
You have a second?
Second, sorry.
Okay. Any further discussion on Mr. Lutz's motion?
I would want the other 2 that I know Mr. Lauer's not here, but I would also want Ms. Goodman to agree to be on this. I don't
Yeah,
want
that's
to
what I was
just
just gonna
force
say. I
on
want to
this.
put Lauer and Hannah on just without them
Oh,
talking.
she said she was willing.
Ms. Goodman, for the benefit of all the members here, would you accept that position?
Yes. I just worry that Greg doesn't actually have the time for that right now. So I would want to just pick somebody else other than Greg, although he would be such a great asset to it. I just don't know that he can handle it currently. What about if we chose Reese?
I'd be amenable.
Could non-board members be on it?
It's a subcommittee of the board.
Okay.
Here,
So we have 3 people now?
yes. The original policy manual committee was 3 people. I think we could work with 3 people.
I'm good with that.
An odd number is always best.
Okay.
So I
Would
would
you
strike Mr. Lauer's name then from my motion.
Okay, would you restate?
Mr. Chair, I move that LP Colorado creates a subcommittee of the board to review and pass along suggestions for a policy manual to the full board, and that this subcommittee consists of myself, Ms. Harlos, and Ms. Goodman.
And we had a second, still have a second?
Yes. I have an amendment.
Okay.
The amendment would be the meetings of this committee would be public and welcome input from concerned members.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment?
I'm for that. I think that's great.
Okay. Do we have any objections to the amendment? We are voting on only the amendment right now.
Can you clarify what that is again, please?
The amendment was to, let me read it specifically here. Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
Here's the amendment is to add a sentence. The meetings of this committee would be public and would welcome input from concerned members.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring that to a vote. Do we have any objections
To the amendment?
to the amendment? Hearing no, the amendment has passed. We are back to the main motion as amended. Madam Secretary, would you read the entirety of the motion as amended?
Create a policy manual subcommittee comprising Karen Ann Harlos, Daniel Lutz, and Hannah Goodman. The meetings of this committee would be public and welcome input from concerned members.
Okay. Time to put it to a vote. Do we have any objections?
Yeah, I object. I think it's how the committee was appointed seemed pretty arbitrary. And I think that if anybody on the board wants to be on this committee, they should be allowed to be, regardless of if it's an odd or an even number.
Does anyone else want to be on the committee?
We think Reese might.
I would be happy to,
We don't know.
but
I'd be happy to
right
accept
now, I
anyone
think we
else
should
on.
go ahead and put this, we are gonna go ahead and put it to a vote. We have a roll call vote now, Madam Secretary.
1 second. Just duplicate this.
Excuse me, Reese said he'd like to be added. So did you guys add him?
Who?
Reese, the membership director.
Okay.
He's currently traveling, but he just confirmed that he wants to be on that committee.
He got
So, I mean,
played 2 minutes ago.
So we have a motion to add, Reese. And in order to keep an odd number, I will also throw my hat in. So the motion is to add Reese and Wayne Harlos. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Do we have any objections? The motion now reads, go ahead, Madam Secretary.
Create policy manual subcommittee comprising Karen Ann Harlos, Wayne Harlos, Daniel Lutz, Hannah Goodman, and Reese Labrie. The meetings of this committee would be public and welcome input from concerned members.
Okay, we will put this to a vote. We had an objection, so we're gonna do a roll call vote. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Harlos.
Mr. Fury,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Kane,
Yes.
Mr. Lalamont,
Yes.
Mr. Cavan,
yes.
for Mr. Labrie,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, it is 8-0.
Point of order,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. I believe we were scheduled to adjourn at 9. That's in 3 minutes. I move that we extend our adjournment to 9:30.
We have a second.
Second.
Put this to a vote. Any objections?
Oh, what, they're allowed to debate.
Forgive me? Anybody have any input on that? Hearing none, do we have any objections to extending the meeting to 9:30? Hearing none, we will extend the meeting to 9:30. I have not yet called the That was 8-0, so that passes. So there will be a committee started with 5 members. And I'm glad that we're going forward with this. Next item here, we have national memberships, and this is Ms. Harless. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, and I might need to get with Reese on this as membership director, but as Mr. Lucchini said, we have till October 31st to get our national membership numbers up in order to have the most delegates possible to national convention. We're down 3 from last convention. I think we had 33 last time. We're now on target for 30. I'd like to get our national members up. So I'd probably get on Discord with Reese and maybe, and set up maybe a call for volunteers to start calling these national members like Mr. Lucchini had said. But I just wanted to bring this to the attention of the board, but I'll get with Reese privately on working out a game plan for how we can tackle this. The national membership report is in OneNote if you want to take a look at the numbers.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Without objection, Mr. Ratwood would like to speak. Hearing none, go ahead, Frank.
Just personal inquiry. What's my status?
I don't have access to that.
To individuals? Okay, good.
I'll look it up. I'll get up with you, Frank.
Super. Thank you.
May I ask a quick question? I wanted to ask it during campaigns, but
go ahead.
That wasn't allowed. Going off of what Mr. Linguini said, does the CRM data contain email addresses?
I'm sorry, what?
Yes. Does the CRM data contain email addresses for reaching out to people, toward constituency or potential voters? Or is it just phone numbers and addresses?
Funk, they
Or
have,
actual email?
there's no hard
Mr. King, you
requirement.
have not been recognized yet?
Okay.
I didn't even hear the question.
No, I didn't either.
Does the
Mr. Campbell,
CRM data? This is for David Aiken. Does the CRM data contain the email addresses of our members or anyone that's a registered Libertarian?
We have email addresses probably for all national members, and some of the registered Libertarians. Overall, we probably have, I want to say, maybe 10%.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. King?
Never mind. Handled.
Okay. Next item of business is new LPCO Facebook group.
I'm gonna move to postpone that to next meeting. I don't have the energy to do that right now.
Second.
Any objections to moving the LPCO Facebook page to a different discussion, or to a different meeting, next week, next month? I'm getting very, very tired. Hearing no objections, that will be put on the agenda as unfinished business for next month. New business. First item is transparency, and this is by Mr. Lutz.
So originally this was kind of centered around creating that internal email for stuff that would be normally discussed in executive session and whatnot. And that's when we found we have an already working internal email. But I got to looking around on the Discord, because that's about the only thing similar to social media that I'm even on right now. It occurred to me that we have a bit of a problem with the Discord. And in particular, it's the boardroom. We have yet another means of secret communication away from our membership. And that just doesn't look good. We've already got our secret email list for when we need to do super secret scroll stuff. I don't think we need to start creating in all of our social media places, secret places where we can meet and talk and this, that, the other. Everyone's gonna have private conversations, but to have the entire board in another closed-off type area talking does not look good for us. So the first thing I'd like to know is, are we even able to close that boardroom channel? Like, is that a possibility? Or is it, once it's created, is it just there?
Mr. Crane,
You could create
created
as
that.
many channels as you want. You could set the permissions to whatever you want.
What about deleting though?
Oh, we could delete it too.
Okay.
Can it be set to?
Read only?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh.
I mean, we just had a volunteer set up the Discord. No one's like trying to do like a secret.
Because I've talked to a few people, and their big problem is they don't know what's going on inside there. And like I've blasted the LNC for this. When you do anything that's not out in the open, someone is going to think something nefarious is going on.
And I'm usually the person that thinks that.
But if we can make it open, I can understand like not wanting to have it clogged up with, you know, a whole bunch of different input, having a clear, concise area for us to communicate like we do on the email lists. But if we can make that open to the entire public.
You mean read?
Read only, yeah.
Yeah. How difficult would that be, Mr. King?
I'll do it right now.
Okay, that solves that.
Cool. That was the
I
big
guess
thing
we're
that
in
I had on
consensus. Anybody object to that activity by Mr. King?
Do you object, Funk, since you're the Discord manager?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Any further discussion, Mr. Lutz?
No, I think that cleared that one up.
Okay. Next one we have is the billboard by Ms. Harlows.
Okay, the messaging committee had met, and one of the ideas that they wanted me to explore was for us to take out a billboard with messaging that would eventually be determined finally by the messaging committee, though we had floated some ideas around, but before they even wanted to pursue that, wanted me to explore what costs would be, because that kind of cost would have to be approved by the board. So I have attached to the OneNote, I've only dealt with one company so far. I have an appointment to speak with another company, but I wanted to get a general idea. And it looks like we can get a month billboard, and it was right about what I thought it was going to be. It was in the range I thought it would be, for a total cost of the billboard is $2,000, and their setup is about $500. So I just say $2,500 for the month, and I anticipated between $1,500 and $2,500. So what I'm coming with here, so that the messaging committee can get to work, is to have the board approve up to $2,500 for a month billboard, with a contingent upon final approval of a messaging plan that's put together by the messaging committee and presented to the board. But this gives the go-ahead that the messaging committee knows that they've got $2,500 and they can work out now a comprehensive plan to present to the board. And I will continue researching billboard companies, because I said up to. I'll try to find one cheaper. But I think that's now about the limit, and this would give the go-ahead, knowing that the expense is approved, contingent upon approval of the messaging plan that's submitted by the messaging committee.
Where would this be at?
There's multiple locations. They're all in Denver. The recommendation on the location would also come from the messaging committee.
I have a concern, not having a treasurer's report.
I looked at last month's, and there is sufficient funds for it.
To take some less desirable locations where they have your ad here, that looks good on them, and they've been known
I don't
to-
want less desirable locations.
It's a trade-off. You put it in both locations, so you've got it up in two, but you're getting a discount. I got over $100,000 a year in free billboard advertising.
I know how to, I'm so late, it's late right now.
We can talk later on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I am more than willing, after I get initial pricing for you, when we are actually going to engage them to see what better deal you can get.
Yeah, I'd love to.
You know, I've already started talking with them. I'm not trying to add another person to the equation at this point. But if we're to the point where, hey, we're gonna hire this company, I'm more than willing to let you take and finalize the deal and try to get it better, if that matters, when we're ready to pull the trigger.
I'd be happy to help, yeah.
Yeah, let's just vote on this, get it ready to go by next board meeting, run that for a month, and then we can iterate from there if we want to do like cheaper places and get longer time
Yeah.
or whatever, but I'm down, let's do it.
Charles, would you like to formalize your motion?
Yeah, just
I thought I did, so the motion would be for the board to approve a budget for the messaging committee to hire a billboard in an amount up to $2,500 contingent upon board's approval of messaging committee plan to be presented at next meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Questions?
Mr.
Who's
Ecken?
on the messaging committee and when did they meet?
Joshua, do you have all the names?
I do not.
Can we get that to you by email?
Sure.
Josh, would you send an email to Mr. Atkin with all the members that are on the messaging committee?
Yep.
And date and time of your next meeting?
And we'll have to set that meeting relatively soon. I'll make sure you know about the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so right now we have a motion and a second. Mr. Hirschman?
It's a question for me. Do we know how effective billboards are? I mean, that's kind of a big investment. Is it going to work?
It is a big investment, John. It would be difficult to actually measure it, just like it's difficult to measure the effectiveness of an outreach booth.
Well, but I assume that the people that put up the billboards probably have some sort of sales pitch where they say it reaches this many people and blah, blah. Do we have any of that information?
We don't even have like those kind of baseline metrics.
You have not been recognized yet. Mr. Lutz?
So I can actually probably give you the numbers off the top of my head they're going to give you, because most major metro areas are going to be the same. You're going to be looking at 50 to 75,000 people driving by your billboard every day. You're going to be looking at, all these people stuck in traffic in the morning, all these people stuck in traffic at night, staring at your billboard for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes at a given time. Everything they try and sell you is not actually the benefit of the billboard. The benefit of a billboard is part of a broad contact strategy. And in professional selling skills, it's been referred to as the 5 points of contact. You hear a radio commercial, you look at a billboard, you go out to an outreach booth, you go to a county meeting, you come to the state board meeting. That's your 5 points of contact, each one of those setting libertarian branding and messaging in your head.
Mr. King?
Yeah, so they're definitely going to be metrics on impressions based on the amount of traffic, like how fast the traffic's moving, and then based on all the other campaigns that they've worked with and their conversion rates, they can give you a range. And that's kind of general. If we put up like a website or a URL, we can get exact hard numbers and how many people go to the site. And if they're converting, how long they stay on the site. And if we use the newsletter for that, then it could be like how many people are subscribed to the newsletter, stuff like that. So you can get hard metrics about how effective it is.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thanks. We actually don't have any kind of like baseline metrics either on like impressions on a social media ad, people who saw a booth, like just general impression, any kind of like data on conversion or anything like that. So this would help us just establish just a baseline for us to compare other efforts to in the future, because we don't even have a baseline to compare this against right now. So,
Ms. Harlows?
In order to determine effectiveness, you have to ask effective at what? The messaging committee has certain goals on this. One of them is to gain attention as part of a strategy to make our own media, which was something that was repeated several times at convention. And that you kind of don't know until it happens, but you certainly know that putting a big ass message in front of people gets a big ass message in front of people. I can tell you this idea originated with me, and I cribbed it from the Birds Aren't Real movement, because that's how they got their big start. They put a big ass billboard in the middle of California that said birds aren't real. And all of a sudden everyone was talking about it with a website. If you put up something that makes people go, huh, what? That is going to get you attention. Our goal is to get attention and media, and with the ultimate goal to educate with wherever we send with the website. So that is not always something that you can definitively measure, because we're not trying to sell widgets and we can say, we know we sold 10 widgets because of this. We're trying to get attention. And big ass words in front of people when they're driving by get attention.
Mr. King?
You can still measure this, though, especially with Hootsuite that we just got for Josh. You will see a spike up in first or baseline and Facebook searches, views, Twitter, and our other platforms too. So there will be a measurable hard metric.
And if we get media, I mean, that's a measure right there too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Would you restate the motion, please, Madam Secretary?
You're killing me.
I know.
Okay.
But my memory's not very good.
For the board to approve a budget for the messaging committee to hire a billboard in an amount up to $2,500, contingent upon the board's approval of the messaging committee plan to be presented at the next board meeting.
We already had a second. We were in discussion, so we will bring this to a vote. Any objection?
I have a question. Is
Yes.
the 2,500 for what time period, or is it just?
It's in 1 month,
1 month.
includes setup fees.
Okay. Any objection to this? Hearing none, the billboard campaign has begun. It passed.
Well, the budget has.
The budget has. Next item I have is a unified membership program, and I will speak to this. I sent out an email, forwarded an email from Andy Burns last week, or maybe the end of the week before, and I'm trusting that everybody has taken the time to read that email from Andy Burns. Does anybody need updates on it? Okay, this is a great opportunity, and it's a brand new idea, well, new to Colorado, but the LNC is making this possible for each and every state to have a unified membership program, and that allows for a donor that signs up for either a state membership or a national membership to also join their state. Now, we don't have memberships here in Colorado at this point, which I think we may have a different discussion on that at another time, but that doesn't mean that that contributor couldn't say, I'd like the $25 membership to national, and I'd like to give $75 to the state of Colorado as a donation. It gives the opportunity for us to get some additional fundraising activities without a whole lot of effort from our fundraising director. He has his hands full doing other things. So I'm a big fan of this, so I'm speaking very strongly about it. I think we should jump on board with this. And I think, Mr. Etkin, you have a little bit more clear idea on how this will work. Can you bring it to our attention on the mechanism that'll make it work?
Basically, it's very simple. It's one page that has the option to donate to both state and national. We will get our money at the beginning of the next month. So if somebody makes a donation on the 15th of the month, it will show up in the first few days of the next month.
Has the national page where people can give donations and sign up for membership, has that been updated to the point that they can take these donations at this point?
I believe what happens is there is a separate page for each state with both state and national donations on it. So, for example, right now, California has one, and I think Kentucky has one also, or maybe it's Arizona, I can't remember which. But each state has their own separate page, okay? And
No, it's New Mexico. It's Chris Lucchini's state.
Linguini?
we can specify the amounts that we want to go on our portion of that page. So we can say we're accepting contributions for $25, $50, $75, $100, $200, whatever.
Okay. I'm a big fan of this, guys. I usually don't speak out very strongly about most things, but this could be the fundraiser that will pay for the billboards. And I think if we can come to a conclusion tonight, I'm going to make a motion very shortly. If we can come to a conclusion tonight, get on board with this and get national to get our page up and running, this could solve a lot of the pushback that we're getting on spending money. I know everybody's nervous about it, but we have a fundraising director that's working hard. He's earning money every month, not just at convention. So with all of these other mechanisms we have in place, we have a way to really bring some significant money into the party, and then we might be able to actually help some candidates, which is what we would ultimately like to do, and get the word out. And so I am going to make a motion that and I will send out an email to Andy Burns, but I'm going to make a motion that we approve joining the Unified Membership Program with National, and with the details concerning the amounts of the contributions to be hashed out by the state chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, have any questions? Go ahead.
So the Unified Membership Program, is there a way, like, we don't really have like any kind of paid state level membership in Colorado? Is it just a donation, or is there a way that we could set up some kind of paid tier?
Yes, good question. For us, it would have to be just a donation. Now, in the future, I am contemplating pushing for Colorado membership. We don't have that now. We've never had it. So there's going to be some spirited debate about that, but at this point, that would be just a donation.
I agree with you strongly.
And so we'll talk about the other items of that, but right now we're going to stick with the point that we're talking about right now, and that's if we get on board with this, we can start generating some pretty significant income, I believe.
So this basically just puts Colorado like on the LP.org site. When you join the LP, it would just basically like put like what it would ask you, like what state
I'm
you're
not sure
in.
about all the details, Mr. Kane. I don't have an answer, but I'll get them.
California?
California has one, and so does New Mexico.
I think it's just on the checkout page.
It's in the
Join, okay.
It's in the email that I sent to you. There's links to both the two that are existing right now. Mr. Lutz?
I am 100% with you on this. I think it's a great thing for both membership and fundraising. It just makes both of our jobs all that easier. And enjoy me being 100% with you on that, because I will be 100% against membership dues.
a good topic of conversation at another time.
Absolutely.
That's a bylaws thing.
Okay, so the motion is to jump on board with the Unified Membership Program with the details to be hashed out by the state chair with Andy Burns. Any further discussion? Mr. Kane?
I just can't visualize what this exactly is. It's just a button on our site to join national at the same time, or
On their site and
and
on
our
our
site
site.
at the same time?
Both.
Okay.
Yes.
Both. As I understand it, once again, I'll gather more information. I wanted to get the go-ahead from the board before I spend a whole lot of time on this. So do we have any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes for Colorado to jump on board with the Unified Membership Program with the details to be hashed out by the state chair. Probably not the best language to use for this, but I think you guys know what I mean. Next item of business is the parliamentary practice session. And Mr. Lutz, this is yours. Go ahead.
So I brought this idea up. A few people have expressed frustrations with Robert's rules and kind of understanding the process of parliamentary procedure and how it works with the board and all that. And I kicked this idea a little bit around on Discord about us getting together for a fake meeting. No real motions, no real anything gets done. We literally come in with obscure fake motions of stuff that we want to try, things that we're not sure about. This way, we can come into a meeting where we don't have to worry about messing with membership's rights, the membership's money, or anything that would negatively affect our membership, while giving us the opportunity to stretch our legs a little bit, make the mistakes that we need to make, because no one's perfect at parliamentary procedure, especially when the book is this thick. But we all do need to practice this, and I don't think official board meetings are the best place to practice parliamentary procedure. I don't think it should be a standing thing, but if everyone would like to get together once or twice for an hour or two over Zoom to just try a couple of different things out and bring up some stuff maybe they're not 100% sure about, we can get Mike in to help clarify stuff for us too.
So at this point, Mr. Lutz, you're not making a formal
I
motion,
wanted to
but
get
you're
a
looking for the
temperature,
the temperature of the room. Okay. Anybody want to discuss this?
Do it.
That's kind of the way I feel. Go ahead and do it and just run with it. I don't think we need a formal motion.
No? Okay, I will send out an email then in the next couple of days asking for dates over the next month or so, whenever a Zoom time would work good for everybody.
What do you think about like inviting just like other like non-board members and stuff like that?
I would encourage it to be primarily affiliate members, but also open it up to the public.
I would be very open to the public. I would like the first one maybe to be, anyone could come to observe, but I'd like the first one to be a practice for this board. But then beyond that, if we wanted to open it up to more people, do larger committee type stuff, I think that would be great. Anyone else who would want to get practice in that, I think would be a good thing. But the first one, I'd like to keep it small so that it doesn't get wrapped around its own axle.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lutz. Next item we have is paintball.
Mr. Lutz.
Mr. Harlos.
Oh, it's me. Mr. Lutz, would you consider like organizing a paintball event?
I would love to organize a paintball event.
As a fundraiser and fun?
Absolutely.
Let's you and I talk about this outside
yes.
the meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Next item we have is meetup. This is something that we're running into a little bit of a problem. The previous committee, or the previous board, opened it up for each one of the affiliates to be able to go in and add all of their own notes and details about what activities they had coming up, and it's become a problem. And we need to make sure that the number one, that the email that David sends out is accurate, and then all of our meetup items are accurate.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. It's 9:29, our extension was to 9:30. I move to extend time by 15 minutes.
Second? Do we have a second? To
Second.
extend for 15, okay. Any objections? We will extend for 15 minutes. We should be able to wrap this up in 15 minutes. I spoke with Mr. Atkin about the difficulty with the meetup and the fact that a lot of the state affiliates weren't keeping up. And we also came to the conclusion that since our affiliates director is already speaking with each affiliate every month, or should be, that maybe that's a good time for our affiliates director to get the updated events and then gather that information and send it to Mr. Atkin and also Mr. Lamont, who is handling the meetup posts. I believe we have to take it out of the hands of the affiliates because they're dropping the ball. Part of that is our fault because of the way it was handled before. But I think this would be easy. We'd have one point person or affiliates director who, like I said, should be talking to each affiliate chair every month anyway, and get a list of all the items. Hey, what do you have going in Douglas County this month, Sean? Nothing? All right, I won't put anything down, other than your monthly meeting. Make sure the meeting locations are correct and all that, and then provide that information to Mr. Lamont and to Mr. Atkins, so Mr. Atkins can get it on the email list, and then also to Mr. Lamont so he can get it on the meetup program. So my motion is to do exactly that, to appoint our affiliates director to gather the information as to each one of the affiliate and also development group monthly activities, and then get the information to Mr. Atkin and Mr. Lamont. Do I hear a second on this?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Without objection, we'll hear from Mr. Vadney. Hearing none, go ahead.
I just have to say I love this idea. I mean, there's so many, between Meetup, between, all these different sites. This is, I feel like, a really nice way to kind of get it in the state database so that it can be better shared. So I love this idea.
Mr. King?
Yeah, we definitely want to do this, and also it integrates with Hootsuite, which will plug into our other social media tools, and they can all unify and push out meetups across all platforms, so it's obvious.
Beautiful. It sounds like this isn't going to be as difficult as I presented it to be. Mr. Hirschman?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that with El Paso County, the meetup thing apparently was set up as a recurring event. And we had Fargo's Pizza as the location, like forever, and we haven't been here since the lockdown started. And that was the issue that came up with us. And Judy Darcy was unable, I guess, to correct it herself.
Yeah, I think this will solve Judy's concern. I believe it will. And her concern is well taken. So we have, hell, I don't even remember where we stand here. We had a motion and we had a second. Any more discussion? Any objection? It passes without objection. Mr. Fieri, you have an additional job duty. And if you need to find a volunteer to help you do this, that's fine. You don't have to do all the work yourself, but it has to be done on a monthly basis. And I think it's great anyway, because it gives you a reason to call the chairs, say, hey, you need any help? You have any questions? Talk to you, talk to me. If they have questions, let's get the things out in the open so we can get some growth happening. And this is a great way to do exactly that. Next item we have, this is presented by Mr. Kane. We have forgive me, you had something?
Point of information. Mr. Burrows has completed his pledge. Is he now officially seated?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Welcome, Mr. Burrows. Next item of business is COVID. Go ahead.
Mr. Barros, would you please give me a bio and a picture?
Sure.
You can send it to database manager at LP Colorado.
Database manager at LP Colorado.
.org.
Okay.
Please make sure it's a picture you look buff in. Thank you.
You look what in buff?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he said make sure it's a picture of a muffin.
That too.
I can't understand, Kevin, I swear. All right, back to the next item of business. We have the COVID Coalition Committee, and this was proposed by Mr. Kane. Go ahead.
Okay, I think this is probably like the most important unifying topic right now. You know, the propaganda has been ramping up. It's going to ramp up excessively as we go into flu season. They're already talking about mandating vaccines in Denver and other creepy shit like that. I don't even think I have to, like, I'm allowed to form our committees for outreach, so I don't even think I need to really put a motion here, but I want to at least discuss it somewhat so we could have a unified and, you know, bipartisan response here and form coalitions, you know, with whoever will form coalitions with us. So maybe just open it up to discussion here real quick without a motion.
Okay, who wants to? Madam Secretary?
Yeah, I'm totally on board, and I also don't think you need board approval to do it.
No, I don't either.
All right, so I'm declaring, I am now overseeing a COVID coalition committee. If anyone wants to be on that committee, just declare that you're on it right now, and I'll allow it.
What be done?
Okay, we got 4. Anyone else?
Anybody online want to jump in on this?
I'll jump in on it.
And
Can I? Is that cool?
that's
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I
all right,
I don't see any reason for this to be just board.
well,
members.
that's his decision.
I don't see any reason for this to be just.
Mr. King, if you want an application to go out to solicit just other people that might not come to these meetings, just let me know and I'll create one and get it over to David, and then I can get you applications. Just anyone for any committees that you want that, I'll take care of it for you.
Cool, and then I'm going to set up a Discord channel specifically for this, and it will have read and write access for everybody.
Now, I do ask that you call yourself the COVID Coalition Committee Czar.
Czar. I'm more into if we're gonna, you know, go down that route, the monarchical
We got
route.
9 minutes here. Next item of business is we have a request from Mr. Labrie to change the meeting day. In his college, in his school, Mondays are very difficult for him to make unless he misses school. And
Impossible. He has like he's got stuff set up now for that for school.
yeah, and so he's asked for us to change the meeting day. Originally, I had some pushback on the idea because we've been meeting on Mondays for so long, but you know, the reality is that's important for affiliates to meet on the same night continuously. But for a board meeting, I don't think it's as important. So I think I don't have any pushback on it.
That's what you needed to ask Spalding about.
About what?
The Independence Institute.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I have the contact from him. I got it.
Sorry.
Mr. Lutz?
I'm going to object to this because if we move it to Tuesdays, I will no longer be able to come to meetings because I go to CU Boulder and I set my school schedule around Monday meetings specifically, and my schedule with my son has been built around Monday meetings. If we switch to Tuesdays, I will no longer be able to attend.
Okay, fair enough. So we have a very strong reason not to do this. Ms. Arlos?
I don't mind changing days to accommodate as long as it's not unaccommodating somebody else. Because that's, I mean, when we all signed up for this job, it was Mondays.
That's what Reese said too. He said,
yeah.
just please float this for me.
Oh, yeah, no. If nobody had a conflict, I would have no objection, but at least with the Tuesday suggestion, now we know that's a problem. So.
I would be open to other days if some other days would work with him. Tuesdays are just, I have my son, I have no one to watch my son, and I have to be there for him, so.
Karen, what was the other day that Reese couldn't make?
Wednesday. He couldn't
So-
do Mondays or Wednesdays.
So we have Monday,
Thursdays are
Tuesday,
open.
and Wednesday off the table. Any objections to Thursday?
I could do Thursdays.
I regret that I probably have a conflict on Thursday for a class at CU also.
CU is just out to
Fucking
take down
government,
LPCO.
education.
All these libertarians in
Ruining-
college.
I have a question.
Ms. Harlow?
How long does this conflict last for Reese?
I think it's the whole school quarter.
I think it'll be until December. So it's a class that's required for his major, and he can't take it. The catalog didn't come out until like a couple weeks ago, I guess, and it wasn't until.
Yeah.
So Andy might be sitting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I
So-
think the
so his-
solution is gonna be a proxy.
Yeah, his struggle is just a few months. Daniel's struggle is years. So,
He's,
Let's move on. It's
put
not
this to a vote.
happening,
No,
so.
there was no motion.
yeah, I was going to make a motion, but we have enough
As
discussion
Reese's
now.
process, can I withdraw?
Well, there's
What?
nothing to
No,
withdraw.
okay.
Yeah,
there's-
yeah,
there's
it was
no
just a
motion.
request.
Can we still try to work on an idea?
I'm down to keep
offline?
talking about it over
Yeah.
email and.
So,
Yeah.
at this point, the meetings will continue on Monday.
The meetings will continue until morale improves.
I like that.
Oh, I want that on a shirt.
Okay.
Oh my God, you didn't hear him, Wayne.
I didn't hear him. I was getting ready to get to the next order
Well,
of
you
business because
probably-
we only have 5
Okay,
minutes.
go ahead.
Historical Committee, Ms. Harlows.
I'm gonna move that till next time. It's not urgent.
Support Asafend
I think it's
Nevada.
safe Nevada.
A safe Nevada.
Oh.
Well, a Safe Nevada, forgive me.
That was by Hannah.
Hannah, would you like to speak to this, or is this something you wanted us just to discuss?
Just to discuss, sorry, I was rushing trying to get board reports in for you that I waited to the last minute to make a official thing for the agenda for this. The executive director of a Safer Nevada PAC is looking for 3 different things. They would like to use an email blast list and ask for donations with our list. They would also appreciate any volunteers that would like to help them fundraise through the phone calling. And lastly, they would be grateful if we, holy shit, what is that noise?
Are you in a rave?
Also, they want $500 to support their project. I mean, I'm okay with them, sending out an email asking our membership for money, or if any of our volunteers want to organize and help them phone call. They're trying to help decriminalize prostitution in Nevada. I don't know if we should donate $500 to them, though.
Do they have a Colorado chapter, Hannah?
No, I don't think so, because prostitution, well, they mostly are talking about brothels and how the regulations on brothels suck. That's paraphrased.
Okay, Ms. Harlows?
We're a Colorado party. I don't think we should be messing with things outside of Colorado. And our members agreed to give us their email addresses for us, not for us to give them away to some other group. So,
I agree with you. I just told them we'd discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, they get our thoughts and prayers, but I think that's about it.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thought it was legal in Nevada.
Parts of Nevada.
Well,
And really
But the
regulated.
regulations are insanely stupid.
Madam Secretary, you put the next item as announcements and opportunity for public comment, 2 minutes per speaker.
Well, we're out of time, though. That's in case there was anybody who wanted to yell at us at the end of a meeting.
All right, the next meeting will be the Monday. Mr. Atwood, go ahead.
Just, thank you very much
2
for
minutes.
that opportunity. I'm still complaining with my own city council that they don't let us bitch to them at the end of the meetings, and that it then takes 2 weeks and everyone forgets what the emotional effort is.
I noticed that myself.
I feel it's a reward for those who sit through this meeting, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I remembered last term I wanted to bitch at the end, so.
All right,
Mr.
it
Chair, I
is
move to adjourn.
quarter till. We have no further business. We are adjourned.
We got through everything, 2 things postponed.